What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates and entertains. I'm your boy, James Jackson, with my two guys, because we got 1 week of a full roster, but, that seems to always just be good enough. But no stat Matt Robinson, Jake Galley, and Kyle Sarek here with me. And we're knee deep into the playoffs at this point. We're actually just talking about off camera, since we do weekly episodes. We got to start looking at these playoffs in a whole instead of, just game at a time, because that's where we really have to get into. So that leads us right into the facts straight at you, because two teams find themselves down 0-2 in this series. And only two teams this century have come back being down 0-2 in the second round of the playoffs and got on to win the series. That's the 0-8 Spurs against the Hornets and the 0-4 Lakers against the Spurs. Like I said, two different teams find themselves down 0-2 and in two very similar holes. We'll go to the first one, and that's the Nets and the Bucks. Of course, the Nets find themselves up 2-0 against the reigning, or I guess former MVP now, in Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks. But Kyle, go ahead, do your thing, because I need the facts on the Nets Bucks, because it's getting shaky for the Bucks, man.
Yeah, well, the Bucks stats or the Brooklyn stats sound a lot like last week. How efficient they are. No Harden doesn't seem to matter. They're shooting almost 50% from the field, 44% from three, 88% from the free throw line. So the efficiency is insane. And Milwaukee's struggling simply because they're playing bad. Chris Middleton's supposed to be the second best player on this team. He's averaging 15 points on 30% field goal percentage. That can't get it done, especially against the Nets. And he has Bruce Brown defending him, and he's 2-11 against Bruce Brown. I don't know about you guys. I didn't think Bruce Brown was some elite defender. I think they're just playing poorly. Milwaukee's also shooting in the 50s for free throw percentage, which is not how you win playoff basketball. Any coach tells you, make your free throws, don't turn the ball over. You can keep it simple. So we're seeing the team of the Nets, continuing what they did in round one, and the Bucks maybe had a little too much time off because they came out very slow. They're down 0-2 right now, going back to Milwaukee, but it's getting scary for them.
Does it boil down to just that, though, Jake? Does it boil down to just one team is super efficient and one team is not? Because, Kyle, you have it perfectly in the stat or in the script. The Nets are shooting 50, 40, 90 as a team, ... what the fuck? Because as a team, I've never seen that. That's efficiency literally basketball has never seen. So is it just boil down to one team is crazy efficient and one team is not efficient, and you find yourselves up 2-0?
So I think to a point, that kind of is the difference. Overall, I think Brooklyn is better than Milwaukee. I think everyone, kind of agrees with that. But the gap was thought to be much, much closer. So I think it's a combination of Brooklyn really feeling themselves. In game two, you could see it. That first half, they just poured it on Milwaukee and, couldn't do anything. And then on the other side, it's Milwaukee kind of clamping up. I'm going to call them from now on until they change their ways. They are the Milwaukee Pilgrims because they're settling on offense. They're settling. You should watch the shots. Middleton is taking these turnaround contested shots. That's why he's shooting 30%. Bruce Brown's a fine player, but you're supposed to be an all-star. You're supposed to be a guy who can attain nearly 50, 40, 90 yourself.
Max guy, right? This max money, Chris Middleton now. I need better than
that's what I'm saying. This is what you're paid for. So, it's going to be tough stuff. It's going to be tough sledding for them if they can't get Middleton going. And then also, I think they need to get Brooks Lopez a little bit more involved. If you look at his shooting numbers, he's shooting 50%, granted only on, I think, 4 3-pointers, 6 3-pointers, something like that. But he's scoring the same as Middleton in 10 less minutes.
Isn't it? Jake, me and you used to always crack the hell up when Brook Lopez would snap. And you remember when I would, end of his Nets tenure, when I would say Brook Lopez was a top 10 center in the league, and people would laugh at me, make fun of me. And I was like, but watch him. Because when Brook Lopez pops off, one, it's really enjoyable to watch. And whatever team he's on, if Brook Lopez is popping off, that's your spark plug. Sometimes this man has hit 7 threes in a game. I've watched him do it. He's shot 42% from three for a whole season. I've watched him do it. So Brook Lopez can actually be this factor. And Kyle, that must be you who put it in the script. Brook Lopez is the Bucks' only hope. Is he really that much of an X factor in this series?
I think Jake did that actually, but I think to an extent, yes. Because we're seeing him almost, with the amount of volume that he's not getting, the Bucks aren't cashing in on that. So I think when you have a guy that, isn't playing bad, and we've seen him do this before, as you said, getting his volume up could help. What I think personally that the Bucks need to figure out is defense. I'd be very surprised if Chris Middleton has a poor game 3 and 4. Say they get swept. I'd be very surprised if Chris Middleton doesn't turn it around at least a little bit. But they have no answers here. They're letting Blake Griffin score a lot. They're giving up open threes to Joe Harris, and we're talking about a team that's traditionally, like this season and last season, one of the best perimeter defending teams in the league. So I mean they're not playing defense, and defense leads to offense. It's tough. It's really tough. I could see the offense come around, but the defensive game plan that they currently have instilled is not going to get it done.
What defensive game plan is that? It is.
What
it's
is
hoping
it?
and fucking praying. It's hoping and fucking praying.
Yeah.
Let me tell you
exactly what it is.
The NBA, so like whatever, Stern nixed the Chris Paul trade. Maybe they sent Ewing to New York. There's a lot of conspiracy theories in the history of the NBA. Blake Griffin needs to be investigated. Blake Griffin needs to be fucking investigated. Dude, he quit on Detroit. Like what he's doing now, he looks like old Blake Griffin. Do you
remember when we had Max Gordon, Brainiac NBA, and I'm calling out Max Gordon and Brainiac NBA right now, live on the airways, because do you remember when he was on this show clowning Blake when the Nets got him? And I said an unengaged Blake Griffin is probably like one of the most checked out players in the league. And that's what he was in Detroit. Like, he still had it. He just was not trying. I could clearly see he was not trying. He was not about to get hurt for that team for what? So I knew it was eventually coming. So I was crazy. I predicted like a 17-7 stat line or something like that for him. And he had one game of over 17-7. But I was overselling the point of Blake Griffin was going to be an impact player. And I could definitely see it now. Where I was definitely wrong was thinking that Drew Holiday and PJ Tucker were going to make this Bucks team better in different ways that we weren't going to see from last year. Like not on the offensive end, but really helping on the defensive end and shutting down key players in the Nets. And they're not doing any of that. PJ Tucker had the steal on Kevin Durant in the first quarter of game 1, and it stopped after that. Like that, when I saw that in the first quarter, I was like, that's exactly why they got PJ Tucker. I'm over here patting myself on the back. Like, I can't wait to brag about it on the podcast. And then he got lit the fuck up every possession after that. Just got lit up.
Yep.
It is too easy for Kevin Durant right now. And PJ Tucker is giving little to no resistance. And Drew Holiday is giving little to no resistance on Kyrie.
Yeah, I'm surprised on the Kyrie thing, especially you see what Harden goes out 30 seconds into game 1. He's most likely gone for the season. I don't know if that's or for the series. I don't know if that's official yet, but it doesn't look like he's playing.
I don't bring it until the Bucks win. I have no rush to bring back James Harden. But they look fine without him.
I agree. And back to the Griffin point. I don't know if you guys saw last game. My man went for like a reverse jelly layup, and he missed it, but it looked tough. And I was like, I had to Google it. How old is Blake Griffin right now?
Here we go.
I was, because this is stuff we've never even seen him do before. Like his athleticism right now is insane. Not to mention he's shooting almost 50% from 3 this series. I mean, they have to do something. Last time we talked about, is it Harden, Kyrie, or Durant they need to shut down? Well, they don't even have Harden, and which should make it easier for you as a defense, and they still can't shut anyone down. So yeah, I do think it's the defense for the Bucks right now.
That's crazy.
Offensively, we're having some guys with off nights, and maybe Giannis should be scoring 30 a night and not 26, but we're pulling hairs there. I mean, like, play defense and figure it out on the offensive side. That'll come.
The Nets are doing all this without James Harden. And remember, a wise man once said, give him James Harden. Just remember that always. But no, I want to go back. I want to go back to the Bucks point you said, Kyle, because that's what everybody was saying. Giannis has to average not 30, 33 to 35 plus. He just has to. Like, we get it. It's a outstanding ask. Like, it's a lot to ask from somebody, and damn near people not named Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Like, it might be too much to ask for people not named that. But if you want to beat the Brooklyn Nets, that's just the reality of what it takes. Your star player has to score 35. Your next best has to score 27, and Drew Holiday has to score 20. Like, that's what it has to be. It's where it starts, and it's not happening. 26 probably gets you past a lot of people. It just doesn't get you past that. It doesn't get you past the Nets.
Like, I think Giannis could learn a lot from the way that, and maybe not a great example since Nikola Jokic's team is down 0-2 as well, but the way that Jokic works as both, I mean, he's been more of a scorer in the playoffs, but he is an ultimate passing hub. It goes into him at the post, guys move around him, and he finds open shooters. Like, that's what Giannis has to be. Giannis can't be He certainly cannot be Mr. Pull-Up Jumper, which he fell in love with in game 2. But
he's trying something because he's going to kick it out to shooters, and bricks are going to go up. Like, Drew Holiday and PJ Tucker averaging 11 points like combined or something through this series or something crazy. Like, so it's nuts. But I do. Or go ahead, real quick.
I was going to say that I totally agree with you that like guys have to play better around him, and Giannis is certainly not the problem. But game 1, just to illustrate the settling point, game 1, 16 shots in the paint against Brooklyn from Giannis, and then in game 2, only 5. I mean, that cannot happen. You need 15, 20 shots in the paint if you're Giannis, and then you can work off that.
Yep. What I was going to do was segue because you was talking about Jokic. One, I know y'all are salty, but before we even get into the series, congratulations on Nikola Jokic for winning MVP this year. I know that's something that don't make y'all happy, but it happened. You know what? Like, go ahead, get it off. Go ahead, get it off. Get it off.
I settled that was going to happen like a month ago. I was like, yeah, it's going to happen.
But did it make
had a good year?
But did it make you feel any better when the news dropped? Did it really make you feel any better?
No, I'm just looking for that ring though.
Like Kyle said, yeah, it's all about the Sixers got completely snubbed unless they're going to put Maxey for Rookie of the Year. Not happening. No. But they've got completely snubbed out of the award. So look, Jokic, like if I'll put it this way, if Embiid and Jokic's situations were flipped, Jokic on the best team, Sixers were like 3rd seed, Embiid played the whole year, Jokic didn't. Mm-hmm. I would want Jokic to win, or I want Embiid to win. Right, if the situations were flipped, I would expect him to win. Right. So like, it is what it is. I love the answer. They're like, "What'd you do to celebrate?" He was like, "Watch 5-hour Pokemon in my house." Like, he's a one of a kind type dude.
Man. I do think he got shafted on the presentation and the announcement of it because I don't think it was supposed to get out. We got investigative journalists that work overtime, and somehow Shams got a hold of it. And it was confirmed by ESPN, and then Adam Silver interrupts their team meeting to appear and give him the award. Like that's, even though it's still kind of COVID times, that's not how it was supposed to happen. That's not how he was supposed to get MVP. The NBA kind of messed up their little NBA awards that they do in July now because like it's supposed to be announced then, like at the awards. That messes up the money a little bit. Like I have a feeling it wasn't supposed to go down like that. Like. And it wasn't even Woj who broke it. That's crazy. That's Shams who broke that.
That's like life as a professional athlete.
Shams is taking over.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, you look down at your phone and it's like, oh, I'm traded. Woj says I'm traded. I'm traded. Like that's how people find out.
But the NBA wants it to be that way. That way we don't have to give you the bad news. The MVP, like we sell money to announce the MVP. It's not supposed to be announced on Twitter.
I wonder what they'll do with that. That's a good point. Like, you know what I mean? Who's watching that show?
Yeah, like I barely watched it to begin with. But let's go to that Suns and Nuggets series that features, the MVP, but it also features the point guard. And Kyle, go ahead and get the facts all out the way so I can go ahead and talk my CP3 shit afterwards. But give us the facts on it first.
Yeah, it features the MVP, and for the Denver Nuggets, it features no one else right now. No other Nuggets players has scored more than 18 points in a game. Jokic last night played well, 24 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. Not a big Jokic game, but you got to remember, he didn't even play 30 minutes. That game got out of hand quickly. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the Nuggets had 26 points, or the starters had 26 points on 28% shooting. You can't expect to win a second round of the playoffs when one guy of your starting 5 is playing good basketball. Chris Paul, on the other hand, who you mentioned, and I'll let you give him his shine, but I'll run the numbers real quick.
Run the numbers.
38 points, 26 assists, and only 1 turnover through 2 games.
Point guard
it's
shit.
Ridiculous.
Point
yeah,
shit.
It is ridiculous. In game 1, 4 guys on the Suns had double digits. And it's really I mentioned the Nuggets starting 5, but it's the starting 5 difference right now. The benches are playing somewhat similarly, but when you look at the starting 5, Phoenix has 176 points from those 5 guys on 57% shooting and 44% from 3. And the Nuggets starters have 126 points on 42% shooting and 29% from 3. And I promise you those shooting numbers are being very inflated by one man, Nikola Jokic. So they need to figure something out there because their bench is playing all right. I mean, their bench is playing all right. Paul Millsap's putting in good minutes, which, Paul Millsap's
going to do that. I think Michael Malone should if he takes any solace or finds any silver lining, it's moving Paul Millsap to the bench midseason. Like that was huge for him and his scheme and what it's doing now for his bench. Because if Paul Millsap's in the starting lineup and their bench unit has to insert somebody else in there, I think Phoenix bench is winning that battle as well, and maybe the series is a runaway. But I'm extra happy at this series. Not only is Chris Paul doing his thing, but Mikal Bridges, former not only Villanova Wildcat, but Chester County 610 native, went to Great Valley right down the road from our former high school, Phoenixville. Like to see him hooping, I was talking to my man Rich the other day, and we're watching the Suns game. We're like, I really guarded him in high school. Like I really shared a court with him in high school, and he dunked on my center in high school, and now he's guarding LeBron in the playoffs. Like it really was a where am I and where is he moment.
You can't do that to yourself.
Like I was like, man, we were at one point at the same spot, and now we're definitely not. But it's
kind of. He still hella D1 offers.
Carl said this, y'all was never the same. Y'all was never.
We go back to like 6th grade, 7th grade.
Still not the same. I'm sure he made the 7th grade team when he was on 6th grade and all that. Like I stayed the course. But to see him hooping is why the Suns have all the momentum. You can win games, and they can be back and forth body blows, but it's when your extra guys, when Mikal Bridges is winning his matchup against Michael Porter Jr. on a night in and night out basis, that's why the Suns have all the momentum, is our extra guys are performing, your extra guys aren't. And going into the series, that's exactly the matchup I said I wanted to look for, was Mikal Bridges against Michael Porter Jr. And sorry to Puma fan, but it was Mikal Bridges from the jump, from the minute the ball tipped, Mikal Bridges was winning that matchup.
So I think it's interesting because I heard, the quotes Mike Malone said, we quit, or there's a team that was trying one team, something along those lines, essentially said his team quit. And I was actually talking with Scal today, Brian Scalabrine, and he was like, that was directly directed at Michael Porter Jr., no one else. That's what he thinks.
Really?
And it makes sense because in the playoffs, like when you aren't shooting well, you gotta dig down. You have to go doubly hard on defense to make an impact and make sure you're not hurting your team.
Yep.
Michael Porter Jr. doesn't know what the hell that means.
Yeah, no.
He has no dog. Like I'm not gonna say he doesn't, but he hasn't shown that he has that dog in
not all around
on defense, right?
If he wants
all
to go
around.
get a bucket, he can go get a bucket if he wants to. But yeah.
So this would be, and you remember last playoffs, he said something goofy. I can't remember exactly what it was that got him in hot water with the team. But oh, you better watch out. He might find his way on out of there if he keeps pulling this stuff in the playoffs. But I do want to just give myself a pat on the back before you go into your. Or did you go into your Chris Paul rant?
You would know if I went into my Chris Paul rant.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, did I miss it?
I ain't sniffed that joint yet. Go ahead.
I just want to harken back a few episodes ago, I think mid-season maybe, when all the trades went down.
Okay.
I pointed to the Nuggets guard depth, and I said, they traded Monty Morris. If Jamal Murray were to get hurt, they'd be really thin. And you guys said something to the effect of nah, they got I don't know, Facundo Campazzo. I don't know who you said.
He isn't at one. Monte Morris is still there. He's been hooping a little bit.
Yeah, Monte Morris.
Who did they trade? They traded Gary.
Eric.
What's his name? Gary Harris.
Gary Harris. Yeah. Why we blank him? Yes. And Monte Morris was the person that we pointed to, and we were right about that. I think that was Kyle who pointed to Monte Morris, if I remember correctly. But it's not enough because
I fuck with Monte Morris. What do you mean? They good last series against the Blazers.
The Campazzo show is over. Whatever that was in the first round is over.
And I think we're gonna see it come to an end.
We shut that down quick. You can do that against everybody else. When Chris Paul's on the other side, all that no look stuff that's over. Okay, quiet that noise. I couldn't wait for that to stop.
There comes a point where the unathletic, crafty white guy can just go no further in the playoffs. Luka, Jokic, there just comes a point where it's just not good enough.
When people are flying above the rim, there's only but so much a no-look pass can do. There's only but so much. But that
one thing.
Go ahead.
One thing about the guard depth though is I think the Falco show could be over because Will Barton played about 16 minutes last game. And the way the Nuggets are playing right now, he's a vet on that team. He's been in Denver for a long time.
And
I
they
wouldn't
need
be
it.
surprised to see Michael Malone put him right into the starting lineup
He can't wait
next
for
game.
Will Barton to get back. That's not
Yeah, he didn't. Well, he didn't start last
uh,
game, but I think it was probably going to happen next game.
They need high energy guy in there too. All right,
Mm-hmm.
everything
And
else.
Barton can go for 20 easily on a night. I mean, they need someone like that, especially if Michael Porter Jr. is not going to be doing it.
Yeah, there comes a time in each episode when we talk about the Suns that I take the floor and talk about Chris Paul.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Yeah, but if you got to refresh in your drink, if you got to get more chips, do that now because we'll be here for a while. No, but in all seriousness, one, to see him battle back from the shoulder injury, like, you guys know my PTSD when it comes to Chris Paul. When I see any kind of injury in the playoffs, my mind goes to the absolute worst. We're done. So, we're moving to another zip code next year, and we're going to go to the playoffs. And then he battled back from that, had the guttiest 18-point game to come back from that shoulder injury against the Lakers, and he's been great ever since. But what I think people are finally starting to see is those intangibles that everybody talks about, like the being the great floor general, spacing the floor, the pace of play, making people better. You can't see that, and Chris Paul makes that come to life. And he makes you be able to literally see that on the screen. Like, you can see points, assists, rebounds, steals. You can see all of that. But the reason why you go get somebody like Chris Paul is for the things you can't see. But he's so good that when you watch the Suns play, like, you can literally see it. You can literally see him control the pace. You can see him put everybody in their right spot, feed it to them in their right spot, make everybody better. And it's why the Suns, have such a chokehold on this series. I didn't even expect them to win game one. I thought Jokic was going to be MVP Jokic. I thought he was going to get the best of DeAndre Ayton. So shout out to DeAndre Ayton for holding his own in this series against Jokic. And I thought game one was going to be the one that they that Jokic shows that he's the MVP and it's too much for the Suns. And it hasn't been that. And maybe this is, game three is the one they get going back to Denver. But the way the Suns are playing, it looks eerily similar to how much they were controlling the pace of the Lakers series, to be honest.
And they're a well-rounded team. What is their weak point? I don't know how. What do you?
They're deep at every position too. The bench comes in and performs as well.
Yeah, Torrey Craig's been playing really well. I was going to point at the bench squad, but Torrey Craig's getting valuable minutes, making show that Sarge doesn't even have to play that much.
I mean, maybe this is their year. Maybe this is Chris's year, man.
First of all, let's not jinx something.
They just play team basketball, and probably to the effect of the best of any team still playing in the playoffs right now, by the aspect that it doesn't matter who's going to take 15 shots a night. We all might take 10, but it's going to be a very efficient 10 shots for all 5 guys on the court. And that's how it's been getting done.
I mean, we talked about it so much, the couple of times we focused on the Suns this year. Well, 10, 11 different players averaging double figures in the regular season or something stupid like that. And the games that they're winning, I mean, there's been a Devin Booker game where he snaps for 40 plus, but most of the time, like in game one or game two, I forget which game that it was, I think Chris Paul and Devin Booker both with 21. Mikal Bridges with, he had his game. So it was game one, 25 or 26. DeAndre Ayton with 20 and 10. Torrey Craig with, 12 or 13. Cameron Payne with 15. Everybody was in the 15 to 25 range. Literally every person who saw the floor. And it was so spread out and so even. No one got hot, but no one got cold. It was steady. Whoever we passed the ball to was getting a shot in their spot and it's going in. So that's just how the Suns have been doing it. It's been so
even
strong.
game two looked a lot like that. It wasn't 40 guys all getting 20 points, but they didn't even have to play that many minutes. I know no one on that Nuggets team eclipsed 30 minutes. I think on Phoenix a couple guys got to 30, 31, 32, maybe 33, but they kind of got the rest towards the end of that game. Right. And it's funny having the Villanova kid in this system, because that is all that Jay Wright does at Villanova. You got the point guard that is probably most fit to run a team like this in the entire league.
Yeah.
And you fill in a couple right pieces. Devin Booker can score a lot. DeAndre Ayton's taking a huge jump in the past whatever years. And Jay Crowder, who's had an impact on every team he's ever played for, talking about the Jazz, the Celtics, and now the Suns. I mean, it's kind of all coming together, James. It's kind of all coming together.
My heart's starting to beat. My heart's starting to beat fast. Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me.
So before we transition here, let me just ask you guys, because this is this could be a very impactful play that I made here. DeAndre Ayton to be Finals MVP. What do you think the odds of that are? Yeah. Out of out of how many times, if you simulated from where we're at now to the finals, how many times does it happen?
So little times.
Like few?
Like so few times.
So at the beginning of the playoffs, I put $3 on DeAndre Ayton.
It just didn't even say it again because it just didn't even sound right. Like, so
what are the chances DeAndre Ayton ever wins a Finals MVP? Is there a path? Can you envision a path that DeAndre Ayton wins
in this playoffs?
In this playoffs.
Yes, injuries on that team, and they somehow still win the finals.
He said, how many times does it happen? If I simulate,
I want to hear that. Hold on, I want to hear the bet slip. What was it?
So it was at the beginning of the playoffs. I think it was actually after the first game. Ayton had an impressive performance against AD, and I looked, and he was 250 to 1. So I bet $3. I win $750.
Yeah, I was gonna say like 1 in 600. So I think he got screwed on the odds.
And here's the thing: the amount of things that have to happen for DeAndre Ayton to win Finals MVP. There's no way. There's no way the Suns win the championship if all those things have to like. Three different people got to get hurt, and if one person gets hurt, it derails it. Like it can't even exist.
So here's let's go through just quickly this horror scenario. You tell me he does or doesn't win it. They make it to the finals against the Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay,
it has to be. He needs.
It goes 7 games. He's like the high scorer in 3 of them. Right,
Chris
it's a game
Paul
like
hurt. Game 4.
Wait.
Come on, man.
Embiid has a bad series. Because of Ayton's defense, and Ayton averages like 22, 12, and like 1.5 blocks. That's not enough. And obviously you don't know like what the other guys like do. I would assume that they would love to give it to Chris Paul if Phoenix wins.
I haven't heard an injury yet. Like it's like an injury has to happen somewhere.
But then it's just You guys think it was a donation then?
Yeah, you might want to cash out that ticket anytime.
That's a tax expense, man. You got to write that one off. you got to get that one back next year.
Let the IRS handle that one.
You got to get that one back next year in March because.
All right. Well, I got a little better question.
Go ahead.
Though I did enjoy that, Jake. Which one of these teams down 0-2 is better set up, more likely to make this comeback?
It's not anybody but the Bucks. I know there's only 2 options, but it's not. It's not the Bucks. Like
I would go neither because I agree with you, and it's just not going to happen with the Bucks. So.
It's by default the Nuggets. Like I think both teams, if they were going to get a game, I don't think the Suns. Like I still don't know if the Suns beat the Nuggets in 6, but if there or in 5, I mean. But if there was a game the Bucks get, it's game 3. It's this next one in Milwaukee, back against the rope, avoiding not to get swept. Because to be honest, once you go down 2-1, hope comes back. You're only down a game. You're one more win from tying the series. So you got to start to chip away at that lead before it gets out of hand. And that's the game. But we were talking about it right before the show too. Like hypotheticals are cute, but you still got to go out and try to beat the same team that you're literally getting your ass handed to you by.
Yeah. So both teams are going back home down 2-0, right? Nuggets and the Bucks. I think the Bucks have a better shot because I think this series could be 2-2. I don't see the Nuggets taking 2 off of the Suns, like at all. Not that I think the Bucks will take 2 off the Nets at home, but I think just off the sheer fact that this team can make it 2-2 in my eyes with a way better shot, I think it's going to be the Bucks. If anyone, I think they both lose the series though.
They could both be sweeps. Like I'm dead ass. They could both really be sweeps. And we'll see. Like we're going to see how well this ages because the Bucks and Nets play game 3 when we're recording about like a couple hours from now. So we don't know the results of that game yet, but I would say there's a better chance of both series being sweeps than either team making a comeback to win the series.
I would agree with that.
Interesting.
I would agree with that.
I'm going back to the fact straight at you, man. It hasn't happened since '08 in the second round, and only twice in the entire century. That's wild.
Like,
So yeah,
it don't happen. And 04 Lakers, I mean, there was a killer on the 04 Lakers.
yeah.
So I don't see anybody named Kobe Bryant or anyone like him walking around left. Maybe Devin Booker's like him, but he's up 2-0.